Imagine discovering that one of the tiny problems irritating you every single day was solved years ago, not by some billion-dollar invention, not by artificial intelligence, not by a machine from the future, just by someone asking a very simple question. Why are we still putting up with this? A wet umbrella dripping across a building, a person standing in the wrong place and blocking a train door, a traveler dragging a heavy suitcase through crowded streets, a restaurant customer ordering food without knowing what it will actually look like, a bicycle taking up valuable city space, a person with poor eyesight trying to walk safely through a busy station. These are not world-changing problems, and that is exactly what makes them interesting, because Japan has built a strange habit around small frustrations. When something causes the same irritation again and again, people often do not simply accept it as normal. They redesign the experience. And once you begin noticing these little solutions, a bigger idea starts to appear. Maybe a smart society is not a place where nobody has problems. Maybe it is a place where people refuse to keep suffering from problems that can be fixed. Today, we are looking at 16 everyday problems that Japan has already found clever ways to reduce, organized into 7 powerful lessons. Some solutions are incredibly simple. Some are surprisingly advanced, and a few may make you wonder why they are not normal everywhere. Let us begin with something almost embarrassingly small. Lesson 1. Solve the small annoyance before it becomes everyone's problem. The first lesson is simple. Do not ignore small friction. Problem 1. Wet umbrellas making indoor spaces messy. Imagine a rainy morning. Hundreds of people enter an office building, shopping center, train station, hotel, or department store. Each person is carrying an umbrella covered in water. Now imagine what normally happens. Water drips onto the floor, people walk through it, the floor becomes slippery. Someone has to clean it repeatedly. Customers carry wet umbrellas around clothing, furniture, bags, and other people. It seems like a tiny problem. But multiply that tiny problem by thousands of people. Now it becomes a large cleaning problem, a safety problem, and an inconvenience for everyone. In many Japanese buildings, you may find simple systems designed specifically for this. Some entrances provide umbrella bags. You slide your wet umbrella into a narrow plastic cover before walking inside. Other places use umbrella dryers or absorbent systems that remove much of the water before you enter. And some buildings provide organized umbrella stands near the entrance. The important idea is not the exact machine. The important idea is the thinking behind it. Someone noticed a small repeated problem and said, "Why should we keep dealing with this every rainy day?" That question is powerful, because most everyday frustration survives for one reason. Everybody assumes it is too small to fix. Japan often treats small inconvenience differently. If it happens to enough people often enough, it is worth thinking about. And that brings us to our second everyday problem. Problem 2. Trying to see clearly while walking in heavy rain. There is another small detail hidden inside something as ordinary as an umbrella. Transparent umbrellas are extremely common in Japan. At first, they may look cheap and ordinary, but think about what they do. When you walk with a dark umbrella pulled low in front of your face during heavy rain, your view can become limited. You may not clearly see the person coming toward you. You may not see a bicycle approaching. You may miss a traffic signal. You may bump into someone. A transparent umbrella lets you protect your face from rain while still seeing through it. It is such a simple idea that it almost feels silly to mention, but that is exactly the point. Useful design does not always need to impress you. Sometimes the best design almost disappears because it simply makes life easier. That is lesson number 1. When a problem keeps happening, stop calling it normal. Ask whether it can be designed away. Lesson 2. Good design should help people before they have to ask. Now we move from convenience to something much more important. A good system should not only work for the fastest, strongest, healthiest, or most experienced person, it should quietly help the person who needs extra support. Japan offers several powerful examples of this idea. Problem 3. Helping visually impaired people move through cities. Look down while walking through many Japanese railway stations and sidewalks, and you may notice yellow textured blocks running across the ground. These are tactile paving blocks. They are designed to help visually impaired people navigate public spaces. Some have long raised lines that help indicate a direction. Others contain raised dots that can warn about a change, crossing, staircase, platform edge, or decision point. Today, tactile paving exists in many countries. but its story is strongly connected to Japan. It was developed by Seiichi Miyake in Japan in the 1960s and was first installed near a school for blind students in Okayama. Think about how powerful this idea is. A person does not need to stop every few meters and ask someone, "Where is the staircase? Where does this path continue? Am I getting close to the platform?" The environment itself gives information. The ground communicates. That is intelligent design, because the best accessibility system is not always someone standing nearby waiting to help. Sometimes it is building the help directly into the environment, and that leads to another problem Japan has worked hard to reduce. Problem 4. The chaos of boarding crowded trains. Picture rush hour. Hundreds of people are waiting. A train arrives. Doors open. People try to leave while other people try to enter. Someone stands directly in front of the doors. Another person pushes from behind. People form a crowd instead of a line. 30 seconds of disorder becomes 2 minutes. Multiply that across hundreds of trains, thousands of passengers, and an entire city. Suddenly, small confusion creates real delays. Many Japanese train platforms use clear markings showing passengers where doors are expected to open. Lines, arrows, numbers, and symbols tell passengers where to queue. People waiting to board often stand to the side, leaving space for arriving passengers to exit first. Of course, Japanese stations can still become extremely crowded. No system removes human behavior completely, but the environment helps create order before the train even arrives. That is the genius. Instead of waiting for confusion and then shouting instructions, the system tries to reduce confusion before it begins. This principle is useful far beyond train stations. If people repeatedly make the same mistake, maybe the problem is not always the people. Maybe the instructions are unclear, maybe the design is poor, maybe the correct behavior is not obvious. Good design quietly answers questions before people need to ask them. Where should I stand? Which direction should I walk? Where is the danger? What happens next? When those answers are built into the environment, everything becomes easier. Problem 5. Not knowing where you are on a complicated journey. Large transport systems can be intimidating. Imagine visiting Tokyo for the first time. There are huge stations, different railway companies, local trains, express trains, subways, platforms above you, platforms below you, different exits that may place you several blocks apart. Yet Japanese railway systems have spent years improving signs, numbering systems, color codes, platform information, and station announcements. One particularly useful idea is station numbering. Instead of depending only on the ability to pronounce or remember an unfamiliar Japanese station name, a traveler may also follow a letter and number. That reduces mental pressure. You do not need perfect language skills. You can simply recognize that you are traveling from one numbered station toward another. Again, the lesson is deeper than trains. Whenever a system becomes complicated, good design should reduce the amount of thinking a person must do. That is one of the hidden rules behind many successful Japanese solutions. Do not make the user work harder than necessary. Make the environment explain itself. Lesson 3. Use space as if every centimeter matters. One thing becomes obvious very quickly in dense Japanese cities. Space is valuable. In many parts of the world, when we run out of space, the first solution is often build wider, add another parking lot, take more land, create a larger building. Japan often has fewer opportunities to do that, especially in major urban areas. So the question becomes different, not how can we get more land, but how can we use the land we already have more intelligently. Problem 6. Cars taking up huge amounts of urban space. Traditional parking is incredibly inefficient. Think about it. You take a large machine designed to transport people, then you leave it sitting still for hours, and while it sits there, it occupies several square meters of valuable city land. Do that with thousands of cars, and suddenly enormous parts of a city exist only to store vehicles that are not moving. Japan has several approaches to this problem, but one of the most visually impressive is automated or mechanical parking. Instead of placing every car side by side across a huge flat area, some parking systems stack vehicles vertically. You drive into a platform. The system moves the car into an available space. Cars may be stored above or below one another, inside a compact structure. The customer does not need to drive around several floors searching for a spot. The machine manages the storage. It does not work everywhere. It costs money to build. It requires maintenance. And different buildings use different systems. But the basic idea is brilliant. Stop thinking only in 2 dimensions. If the ground is limited, use height. Japan did not invent the idea that things can be stacked vertically, but Japanese cities have become especially good at using vertical space because they often have strong reasons to do it. Now consider a smaller vehicle. Problem 7. Thousands of bicycles cluttering streets. Bicycles are efficient. They require little fuel. They take less space than cars. They are useful for short trips, but thousands of bicycles create their own problem. Where do you put them? Leave them everywhere, and sidewalks become blocked. Station entrances become crowded, pedestrians lose walking space, and finding your own bicycle in a giant parking area can become frustrating. Japan has built everything from organized bicycle parking zones to underground and automated bicycle storage systems. Some advanced systems allow a rider to place a bicycle into a machine, which stores it underground in a structured parking facility. Later, the rider uses a card or identification system, and the bicycle is automatically returned. It sounds almost like science fiction. Yet the problem being solved is extremely ordinary. Where do we put all these bicycles? This is what makes Japanese design so interesting. Very advanced technology is sometimes used not to perform a dramatic task, but to solve something boring. Parking, storage, queues, deliveries, cleaning, navigation. And perhaps that is one reason these solutions work. They are not trying to look futuristic. They are trying to remove friction. That creates our third lesson. A city becomes smarter when it stops treating space as unlimited. Every meter has a cost. Every unnecessary obstacle affects someone. Every object has to go somewhere. When designers understand that, they start thinking differently. They build upward, they build downward, they combine functions, they make objects smaller, they make systems more organized. And suddenly, a place that looked too crowded becomes manageable. Lesson 4. Remove uncertainty from simple decisions. Think about how many small decisions you make every day. Where should I eat? What does this meal actually look like? How much does it cost? How do I order? Do I need to explain everything to someone? Where can I print this document? Where can I pay this bill? Where can I collect a package? Individually, these questions seem small. Together, they consume time and attention. Japan has become extremely good at reducing this kind of everyday uncertainty. Problem 8. Ordering food without knowing what you will receive. Imagine visiting a restaurant where you cannot read the menu. There are unfamiliar names. Maybe the translation is confusing. You order something. 10 minutes later, a dish arrives. It is completely different from what you imagined. Many Japanese restaurants have long used highly realistic food models known as samparu, from the English word sample. These plastic or resin displays can show what meals look like before you enter or order. You can see the size, the ingredients, the presentation, the side dishes. Even details such as noodles, sauce, rice, vegetables, or dessert may be recreated with amazing realism. This helps tourists, children, people in a hurry, and anyone unfamiliar with the menu. It turns an abstract name into something visible. Of course, modern restaurants also use photographs and digital screens, but the food sample remains a fascinating example of solving uncertainty with visual information. Instead of telling you what something is, show you. And some restaurants take this idea one step further. Problem 9. Slow or awkward ordering. In some Japanese restaurants, especially casual noodle shops, ramen shops, curry restaurants, and similar places, you may order using a ticket vending machine. You select your meal, you pay. The machine gives you a ticket. You give the ticket to the staff. Your order is prepared. This can reduce several problems at once. The person preparing food does not necessarily need to handle cash. Payment happens before the meal. Customers can see prices clearly. Orders become more standardized. Communication can become easier, especially when pictures or multiple languages are available. And during busy periods, staff can focus more attention on preparing and serving food. Is it perfect? No. A first-time visitor may still find some machines confusing. Small restaurants may have limited English instructions. Technology can create new problems while solving old ones, but the idea is important. Look at every repeated step in a process and ask, does a person really need to spend time doing this, or can the system handle it? That question appears again in one of Japan's most famous everyday institutions. Problem 10. Needing 5 different places for 5 small tasks. Imagine this situation. You need to buy breakfast, print a document, withdraw cash, pay a utility bill, send or collect a package. Normally, those jobs might require several different locations. In Japan, convenience stores, commonly called konbini, have turned the small neighborhood shop into something much more powerful. Depending on the chain and location, customers may be able to buy meals, use an ATM, photocopy or print documents, purchase tickets, make certain payments, send parcels, collect deliveries, and access other services. This is a fascinating lesson in convenience. The store is not asking, "What else can we sell?" It is also asking, "What other small problems does a person have while they are already here?" That shift changes everything. Instead of forcing people to travel to several specialized locations, one familiar neighborhood location handles multiple needs, and because many convenience stores operate long hours, the system can also help people whose work schedules do not fit traditional office hours. This is one reason Japanese convenience stores feel so different from the simple idea of a corner shop. They have become small service centers. Now take this principle and apply it to your own life. How many things do you do through separate processes that could be combined? How many apps do you open? How many forms do you complete? How many lines do you stand in? How many times do you repeat information that a system should already know? Convenience is not laziness. Convenience is the removal of unnecessary effort. And that brings us to our next example. Problem 11. Not knowing where to store your belongings while exploring a city. You arrive in a city before hotel check-in. Your suitcase is heavy. You want to walk around, but every staircase reminds you that you are carrying 20 kilograms behind you. Japan's railway stations and busy public areas often have large numbers of coin lockers. Different sizes can accommodate backpacks, shopping bags, and sometimes larger luggage. Store your belongings. Explore freely. Return later. Again, simple, but incredibly useful. The genius is location. Lockers are placed where people are most likely to need them. A useful product in the wrong place is not always useful. Good design understands not only what people need, but when and where they need it. That is lesson 4. Remove uncertainty. Show people what they are choosing. Combine services. Put tools where the problem actually occurs. Make simple decisions feel simple. Lesson 5. Move things instead of forcing people to carry them. Modern travel often contains a strange contradiction. Transportation has become faster, yet travelers still spend enormous energy dragging their possessions around. Suitcases through stations, suitcases upstairs, suitcases onto trains, suitcases through crowded streets. Japan looked at that problem and developed an extremely useful answer. Problem 12. Dragging heavy luggage everywhere. Japan's luggage forwarding services can allow travelers to send bags from one location to another. A suitcase may be shipped from a hotel to another hotel, or from certain locations toward an airport. Instead of carrying every bag on every train and through every station, you can arrange for the luggage to travel separately. This kind of delivery service is often associated with the Japanese concept of takyubin or takuhaibin. For travelers, the benefit is obvious. You move freely. Your suitcase moves through the logistics network. Think about the difference. A family with children does not need to pull several large bags through a crowded station. An older traveler does not need to lift a heavy suitcase repeatedly. A person taking several trains can travel with only a small day bag. The solution works because the delivery network is designed to be predictable and convenient, and that reveals something important. We often assume that personal belongings must travel exactly the same way we do, but why? Why should a suitcase occupy space on a crowded train if another system can move it more efficiently? Once you question the assumption, the solution becomes obvious. And Japan has also worked on another modern delivery problem. Problem 13. Missing a package because you were not home. Online shopping created convenience. Then it created another problem. Delivery drivers arrive when customers are not home. Packages cannot be delivered. Drivers may need to return. Customers need to rearrange schedules. Traffic increases. Time is wasted. Parcel lockers, pickup systems, convenience store collection, and other delivery options can reduce this problem. Japan has been expanding various ways for customers to receive goods without requiring a perfect face-to-face meeting between customer and delivery driver. The basic principle is powerful. Separate the service from the exact moment two people must meet. Think about how many everyday systems fail because two humans are required to be in exactly the same place at exactly the same time. Appointments, deliveries, payments, document collection, repairs. Once technology removes that requirement, convenience rises quickly. But here is the deeper lesson. Japan's famous delivery systems are not impressive merely because packages move quickly. They are impressive because they treat logistics as part of daily life. Movement itself is designed. Where should the object go? When should it arrive? Who really needs to carry it? Where can it wait safely? These questions seem boring, but cities are built on boring questions. A brilliant city is not only beautiful buildings and fast internet. It is millions of ordinary objects moving through millions of ordinary days without creating unnecessary chaos. Lesson 6. Cleanliness works better when responsibility is shared. Now we reach an area where Japan is often admired by visitors: cleanliness. But the most interesting part is not simply that many Japanese streets, schools, trains, and public areas can appear very clean. The interesting part is how responsibility is distributed. Problem 14. Creating more trash because disposal is too easy. Many visitors are surprised by something in Japanese cities. Public trash bins may be less common than they expect in certain areas, yet streets can still remain remarkably clean. How? There is no single answer. Different neighborhoods have different rules. Public cleaning exists. Businesses manage waste. Residents follow collection systems, and social expectations play a major role. People often carry their trash until they find an appropriate place to dispose of it. Household waste can also require careful sorting according to local rules. Burnable waste, non-burnable waste, bottles, cans, plastic containers, paper, large items. Exact categories differ by municipality, and collection schedules can be detailed. To someone unfamiliar with the system, this can feel annoying. Why should throwing something away require thought? But that inconvenience serves a purpose. When waste disappears instantly into one giant bin, you stop thinking about how much waste you create. When you must sort it, store it until collection day, and follow clear rules, waste becomes visible. You become part of the process. This does not mean Japan has solved the environmental problem of waste. Japan still produces packaging. It still faces recycling challenges. It still generates large quantities of garbage, like every developed society. The lesson is not that the system is perfect. The lesson is that responsibility does not end the second an object leaves your hand. Someone still has to collect it, sort it, transport it, burn it, recycle it, store it, or dispose of it. Good systems make that hidden process harder to ignore. And the same philosophy appears in an unexpected place. Problem 15. Teaching children that cleaning is someone else's job. In many Japanese schools, students take part in cleaning their classrooms and other school areas. This practice is often called soji. Students may sweep floors, wipe surfaces, organize rooms, or help clean shared spaces. Of course, schools still need adult staff and maintenance systems, and practices vary. But the educational idea is powerful. Imagine two children. The first child is taught, if something becomes dirty, somebody else will clean it. The second child is taught, this is our shared space. We help care for it. Those two ideas can create very different adults. When you have cleaned a floor yourself, you may think twice before throwing something onto it. When you help organize your classroom, the room feels partly like your responsibility. When everyone contributes, cleanliness is no longer seen only as a paid service. It becomes social behavior. This is bigger than cleaning. It is a lesson about ownership. People protect what they feel responsible for. They neglect what they believe belongs to nobody. This helps explain why signs, rules, and machines alone cannot create a well-functioning society. Technology can improve behavior. Design can guide behavior. But culture matters too. If people believe public space belongs to everyone, they treat it differently. If they believe public space belongs to nobody, it becomes somebody else's problem. And that is one of the most powerful everyday lessons we can borrow from Japan. Do not only ask, who is paid to fix this? Sometimes ask, what small part of this is my responsibility? That question can change a home, a school, a workplace, a neighborhood, and eventually a city. Lesson 7. The best technology is the technology that makes ordinary life feel easier. We have saved one of the most famous Japanese examples for last, because nothing represents the strange beauty of Japanese everyday innovation quite like the toilet. Yes, the toilet. A device so ordinary that most people barely think about it. And Japan thought about it a lot. Problem 16. Why should a basic human need be uncomfortable? In many parts of Japan, especially in modern homes, hotels, offices, stations, and public facilities, you may encounter advanced toilet seats with features such as washing functions, adjustable water settings, heated seats, deodorizing systems, and other controls. Some facilities also use privacy sound devices. The idea is wonderfully strange when you first encounter it. Why put so much engineering into a toilet? But turn the question around. Why would we put advanced technology into our phones, televisions, cars, watches, refrigerators, headphones, and doorbells, yet accept an uncomfortable design in a place every human being needs to use every day? That is where the Japanese approach becomes fascinating. Importance is not always measured by how glamorous something is. Frequency matters. If you do something every day for your entire life, even a small improvement becomes valuable. A toilet seat being warm instead of freezing may sound like a luxury, but use it every winter morning for 20 years, and that tiny comfort becomes thousands of better experiences. A washing function may improve comfort and hygiene for many users. A privacy sound device may reduce embarrassment. Clear controls can make the experience easier. Automatic flushing in some locations removes another small step. Again, none of these features will change civilization. That is not the point. They change Tuesday morning. They change the moment you enter a hotel after a 12-hour flight. They change everyday life. And everyday life is where most of our life actually happens. We spend very little time experiencing huge historic moments. We spend enormous amounts of time opening doors, waiting, walking, eating, cleaning, carrying things, using bathrooms, receiving packages, finding directions, parking, shopping, commuting. The quality of a life is influenced by thousands of small experiences, and Japan's greatest lesson may be that small experiences deserve serious attention. The bigger question, why does Japan keep solving these tiny problems? Now we have seen 16 examples: wet umbrellas, poor visibility in rain, navigation for visually impaired people, crowded train boarding, confusing transport systems, car parking, bicycle parking, unclear restaurant menus, slow ordering, too many errands, luggage storage, heavy suitcase transportation, missed deliveries, waste management, shared cleaning responsibility, and uncomfortable bathrooms. But the real story is not any one invention. The real story is the pattern connecting them. Japan has a long history of dealing with constraints: limited space in major cities, dense populations, an aging society, natural disasters, complex transportation networks, high customer expectations, long working days, millions of people sharing limited public space. Constraints create pressure. Pressure creates questions, and good questions create design. When a city has endless empty land, wasting a little space may not feel urgent. When space is expensive, every square meter matters. When millions of passengers use trains every day, saving 30 seconds repeatedly matters. When a large percentage of the population is older, accessibility matters. When customers expect smooth service, tiny inconveniences matter. This does not mean Japan is perfect. Far from it. Japan has problems. Crowded cities can be stressful. Some workplaces have faced serious problems with long working hours. Rural areas are dealing with population decline. The country faces major demographic challenges. Some technology systems can still feel surprisingly old-fashioned. Cash, paperwork, fax machines, and complicated procedures have remained common in some areas much longer than outsiders might expect. No country solves everything, and that is important to say, because the goal is not to worship Japan. The goal is to study what works. That is a much smarter habit. Instead of saying, "This country is perfect," ask, "What did they solve well? How did they solve it? Could that idea work somewhere else? And most importantly, what problem have we accepted that we should have fixed years ago? Why haven't we?" That question in the title sounds simple. Japan already solved these everyday problems. Why haven't we? But there is a surprising answer. Sometimes we have. Many Japanese ideas now exist in other countries. Tactile paving has spread around the world. Parcel lockers are becoming common internationally. Automated parking exists outside Japan. Modern bidet seats are sold globally. Self-service ordering is everywhere. Multifunction convenience stores exist in different forms. Cities around the world are improving bicycle storage. So the real question is not, why has nobody copied Japan? The better question is, why do useful ideas spread so slowly? One reason is habit. Humans are incredibly good at adjusting to inconvenience. If a door has been difficult to open for 10 years, people stop asking why. They simply pull harder. If everybody gets confused at the same intersection, people say, that intersection is confusing. But few people ask, why has nobody redesigned it? If packages are repeatedly missed, we adjust our schedule. If commuters form chaotic crowds, we blame commuters. If an elderly person struggles with a staircase, we say, that must be difficult. We adapt to bad design faster than we challenge it. And once something becomes normal, normal becomes invisible. That may be the most important lesson in this entire video. Progress often begins when someone sees the normal thing as strange. Why are people carrying wet umbrellas through a store? Why are people dragging giant suitcases through crowded stations? Why does someone need to ask for help to find the correct path? Why are expensive cars spread across huge areas of land while sitting still? Why are 5 basic services located in 5 separate buildings? Why should a customer guess what a meal looks like? Why should children believe cleaning is always another person's responsibility? Why should basic comfort stop improving just because the product happens to be a toilet? Those questions sound almost childish, and that is why they are powerful. Children constantly ask, why? Adults eventually stop. Adults say, that is just how it works. Innovation begins when someone starts asking why again. The hidden Japanese idea, removed friction. If you reduce all 16 examples to one idea, it is this: remove friction. Friction is anything that makes a simple task harder than it needs to be. Waiting unnecessarily is friction. Confusion is friction. Carrying something that could be delivered is friction. Searching for information is friction. Standing in the wrong place is friction. Repeating the same task is friction. Cleaning preventable mess is friction. Using too much space is friction. Needing to ask someone a question the environment could answer is friction. The goal of intelligent design is not always to create something completely new. Sometimes it is simply to remove one unnecessary difficulty from an old experience. Think about your own morning. You wake up. You make breakfast, you prepare for work, you find your keys, you travel, you park, you enter a building, you use an elevator, you buy lunch, you pay, you receive deliveries, you return home. Every one of those moments contains friction. Most of it is so normal that you no longer see it. But imagine removing just 10 seconds of frustration from something you do 5 times every day. That is 50 seconds per day, more than 5 hours per year. Now multiply that across 1 million people. A tiny improvement becomes millions of saved hours. This is why small design matters. Scale changes everything. Japan's real advantage is not technology. It is easy to watch videos about Japan and think the answer is technology. Robots, bullet trains, automatic machines, high-tech toilets, mechanical parking. But technology is only a tool. The deeper advantage is attention. Someone has to notice the problem first. A machine cannot solve a frustration that nobody believes deserves solving. Before technology comes observation. Watch what people struggle with. Watch where they stop. Watch where they become confused. Watch where they create a queue. Watch what they repeatedly drop. Watch what they carry. Watch what they ask employees. Watch where accidents almost happen. Watch what takes 20 steps when it should take 5. Those moments are telling you something. They are showing you where design has failed. This is what businesses should study. This is what city planners should study. This is what schools should study. And this is what you can study in your own home. Where do you always lose things? Where does clutter always collect? What do you keep forgetting? Which task keeps taking too long? Which object is stored far away from the place where you actually use it? Which repeated frustration have you complained about for years without changing anything? You do not need to redesign Tokyo. Redesign one drawer, one desk, one routine, one room, one process, one habit. The thinking is the same. The second hidden lesson: respect other people's time. There is another idea connecting many of these systems: respect for time. Clear train queues save time. Ticket machines save time. Convenience stores save time. Luggage delivery can save physical effort and travel stress. Parcel lockers can save failed delivery attempts. Coin lockers allow travelers to use hours that would otherwise be wasted. Food samples reduce hesitation. Station numbering reduces confusion. Good signs prevent people from walking in the wrong direction. Every tiny improvement says, your time matters. That attitude is powerful, because wasting someone's time rarely looks dramatic. Nobody screams when a bad sign cost them 4 minutes. Nobody writes a newspaper article because a poorly designed checkout wastes 2 minutes. Nobody calls an emergency meeting because an employee spends 30 seconds repeating information. Yet that wasted time keeps accumulating. One badly designed system can steal thousands of hours from society without anybody noticing. Imagine a form that takes every customer 3 unnecessary minutes. 10 customers, 30 minutes wasted. 1,000 customers, 3,000 minutes. 1 million customers, 3 million minutes. That is 50,000 hours of human life, lost because nobody redesigned a form. This is why everyday design matters more than it appears. A small problem multiplied by millions of people becomes a big problem, and a small solution multiplied by millions of people becomes a big achievement. The third hidden lesson: make the right action easy. There is one more pattern. The best systems do not constantly lecture people about behavior. They make the correct behavior easier. Want people to queue correctly? Mark the platform. Want travelers to understand a huge railway network? Use numbers, colors, arrows, and signs. Want people to sort waste? Create categories and collection schedules. Want customers to order efficiently? Give them a clear menu or ticket machine. Want pedestrians with limited vision to navigate safely? Put information beneath their feet. Want bicycles off sidewalks? Create somewhere useful to store them. Want people to travel without enormous bags? Build a reliable delivery network. This is a lesson every government, company, school, and household should remember. Do not only tell people to behave better, design conditions that make better behavior easier. If a trash bin is impossible to find, do not be surprised when waste appears in the wrong place. If instructions are confusing, do not be surprised when customers ask questions. If a train platform gives no clear information, do not blame people for standing incorrectly. Sometimes what looks like a human problem is actually a design problem. That does not remove personal responsibility. People still make choices, but good design helps good choices happen naturally. What could the rest of the world learn? The answer is not to copy every Japanese system exactly. Different countries have different cultures, different budgets, different laws, different populations, different cities, different climates. A mechanical bicycle parking system that makes sense beside a crowded Tokyo station might be completely unnecessary in a small town with plenty of open land. A restaurant ticket machine might be efficient for a busy ramen shop, but feel cold and unnecessary in a fine dining restaurant. Copying blindly is not intelligence. Learning the principle is, and the principle is simple. Look for repeated pain, then redesign it. If people keep asking the same question, improve the sign. If people keep creating the same mess, change the system. If space keeps running out, rethink storage. If the same task requires too many steps, combine them. If elderly or disabled people struggle to use a place, redesign the place. If people lose time waiting for something that does not require human interaction, automate the unnecessary part. If technology makes something more complicated, remove the technology, because the goal is never technology itself. The goal is a better experience. Final lesson. Japan did not become interesting because it discovered 16 magical inventions that nobody else could imagine. It became interesting because it repeatedly paid attention to things most people ignore. A puddle beside an entrance, a crowded train door, a lost traveler, a bicycle blocking a sidewalk, a suitcase on a staircase, a person who cannot see the path ahead, a student leaving a classroom dirty, a customer confused by a menu, a delivery driver returning to the same empty house. Individually, these things look too small to matter. Together, they create the experience of living somewhere, and maybe that is the biggest lesson Japan can teach us. The future does not always arrive as a flying car. Sometimes the future is an umbrella that does not drip water across the floor. Sometimes it is a yellow line beneath your feet that tells you where to go. Sometimes it is a machine that stores a bicycle underground. Sometimes it is a convenience store that solves 5 problems during one visit. Sometimes it is a suitcase arriving at your hotel without you dragging it across the country. And sometimes it is simply a warm toilet seat on a cold morning. That may not sound revolutionary, but perhaps revolution is the wrong word. Maybe real progress is quieter. Maybe progress happens when somebody looks at a normal frustration and refuses to believe that normal means necessary. So the next time something annoys you for the 100th time, do not immediately complain. Study it. Ask what creates the problem. Ask why the problem still exists. Ask what step could disappear. Ask what could be clearer. Ask what could be moved. Ask what could be combined. Ask what could be automated. Ask what could be made easier for the next person. Because somewhere in Japan, that kind of question has turned hundreds of ordinary frustrations into surprisingly elegant solutions. And the most important question is no longer, how did Japan think of this? The question is, what everyday problem are we still accepting simply because nobody has bothered to solve it yet?